Welcome to the Basic Bee podcast, a show for the wannabe SEO savvy service providers among us, for the coaches and consultants who dream of becoming known for their storytelling skills, not to mention the solopreneurs who straight up need to master all things social proof to increase sales. After a little reluctantly fully committing to this online world of business, I quickly realized I needed to get people to come to me. I needed to tell them I was here and how I could support them. I dove headfirst into social proof, which led me to SEO, which led me to storytelling. And now it gives me great joy to share what I've learned with other business owners so they skip the hard stuff and ease straight into sales. This podcast gives you expert insights, actionable takeaways, and casual convos with some of the online world's best and brightest experts and strategists. I think that's enough of an intro, so here we go. Welcome back to the Basic Bee podcast. I am thrilled that you're here, and I've got another one of my clients that we're going to get to do a case study interview with. I'm so excited. I've got Amanda Walker here, and we're going to be talking through her experience being an SEO packet client. Before I bring her on, here's a little bit of an intro for you. Amanda Walker is a former high school teacher turned certified master coach who is obsessed with coaching. Amanda is on a mission to help 1 million coaches transform the lives of 1,000 clients through her podcast, content, and programs that support the coaching industry. She's an Arizona native, wife to a fellow entrepreneur, and mama to 2 passionate kiddos. Amanda, my friend, I'm so happy you're here.
Yes, I am so honored to celebrate you, to talk about all the goodness that you brought into our team. So thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh. And with that, we can just end the episode there.
Okay, and done. Mic drop.
And we're done. No, so I've got some questions for you, but of course, we could end up going completely off the rails here. But will you share a little bit about when you realized you wanted to address SEO?
Yeah. So let's rewind the clock a little bit, because when I first started business, one of the things I worked on was a blog. I thought, okay, I'm going to write. And so I did learn about SEO, thankfully, from a mentor. And then, to be honest, my business has taken so many cool twists and turns that I'm here and now. Obviously, we no longer blog in a sense. Part of what we know reaches our people is a podcast. And so what really spurred on the discussion is I had some massive shifting and clarity inside of my business. And I've always asked myself the question, what do I want to be known for? And when I had that divine aha moment over the last couple of years of what I specifically really am passionate about being known for, it's building out signature coaching frameworks and just the building of frameworks in general. That's my sweet sauce. That's how we support coaches. And so that's when I really, had the aha of okay, SEO, I want to be that person. I want to be that go-to. So there's part of it's just word of mouth and visibility elements, but also you want to work smarter and not harder. And part of that is SEO. And I think I ended up discovering you on another podcast. I heard you talking about case studies. I was like, she's my girl. We love talking about case studies. And so we chit-chatted, and that's when I discovered kind of more the inside of what you do. And I knew I wanted to bring you on and do a little bit of work inside of some of our episodes.
Yeah, that's right. Do you remember if it was Rick Mulready's podcast?
I think it was Rick Mulready's podcast for sure.
Amazing. So I was actually on with him twice. I'll make sure to link the first one in case you're curious and you want to go down that rabbit hole. But also, you initially contacted me. I forgot this until you said that. I think to come on your podcast, or that was one of the pieces that came out of our conversation.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about it. So you were on the Best Damn Coach podcast with me, and we talked about case studies. So definitely.
Oh yeah, no, it was fun. So I'm excited for this one. I will make sure that one is linked as well below. Did you do any other exploring with trying to find another SEO pro to work with, or was it just right timing, right thing, right person?
So transparently, I have someone that does help with SEO on other ends, but he's also an ad specialist. So when I have associations, he's my ad guy, my Google ad guy, my Facebook ad guy. And I just really trust that people are dropped into your life for a purpose. And when you feel the energy is matched, and specifically, I knew exactly where I wanted some of the show notes to go. What you did is different and specific to what I was looking for.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about maybe what were your hopes when you came in and you're like, okay, Brittany, I'd like your help here. What were your hopes for working together?
Well, we had started running a $2 a day podcast awareness ad through Facebook ads, Instagram ads. And so I knew that intuitively I wanted that ad to bring light to what I do best, which is framework building. And so as that ad started performing really well, I thought I'm leaving money on the table here because that particular episode show notes could definitely use some zhuzhing up. And I wanted it to be SEO driven, but I also wanted it to link to a case study episode so they could hear how our students inside of our framework builder lab performed. And so that was really my hope, is that you would see that pathway and you would also see the pathway that I didn't see around SEO and how to, lead as much as possible into the keywords that make the most sense from an SEO perspective around, what I long-term want traffic to head my direction on our website and our episodes around.
I love that. So what we were able to put together was an SEO audit, and then we optimized 2 different blogs. They were blogs that were written based on podcast episodes from your show. So one question that I get a lot with the SEO audits is, am I going to come in and do the fixing? And I typically don't, but what I like to do is work with teams or work with solopreneurs to go in and kind of direct and guide them, empower them to be able to do it on their own. How was that part of just the SEO audit part of things for you and your team?
Yeah, the audit was fantastic because, you definitely over-delivered. I will say that, shouting that out for sure. Over-delivered. You give a really great kind of guideline and audit reflection sheet, but also included a Loom video walkthrough. So we knew exactly. And I have a team of 4. And so I love that piece because there are parts of it that I can be in charge of, but a lot of it can be my team going in and doing some of the cleanup from a perspective. So I got way more in a sense that, yes, we were auditing, kind of looking at the site as a whole, but also specific to the blog post or episode show notes that I was looking for. Definitely learned way more than, I expected. And then that was easy for me to put a plan in place to help delegate some of the tasks to do work around that.
Yeah, you definitely are good with systems and processes, because as soon as I gave you that sheet, I sent stuff over, and I love sending Looms along with most deliverables, if not every single deliverable. And some business owners, I find they go in, they're all about it. They want to learn. Some are like, yeah, cool. I see that. Thanks. And they don't touch it, or they'll have their team member touch it and look at it and watch it. But it was so great. You dove in, you were watching things, you were voxering me questions. I felt really amazing about what I delivered and how responsive you were to it. So I got to give you heavy props for that one. Yeah. Thank you for being an amazing student.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, I'm just such a proponent of, if you're going to invest in something, make sure it's the right time so you can thoroughly do the work. And anytime I'm putting money towards something, I want the greatest ROI possible. And that always falls on our shoulders. And so for me, I knew that I was the one domino if anything was going to be done. So I wanted to take it in the moment and make sure we executed.
And what was really great was working with you and your team really inspired me to create what ultimately now is this double template for SEOified podcast show notes and blogs. We kind of brainstormed that together, and so I have to thank you so much for.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah, for bringing me in and helping. Again, all the dominoes fell into place. It was the right timing, right people. So talk us through a little bit about what the blog optimization was like from your perspective.
Yeah, just a shout out to you, because when you provided the template that you did, it definitely had light bulb moments of we should reinvent our systems around this process so that every episode is driven from an SEO perspective. And that's not something that I was necessarily doing. I think I had it in the back of my mind, but there's a difference between arbitrarily coming up with a title because you're passionate about talking the episode, but also just looking at what the keyword research is and asking yourself, is there overlap? Can I possibly get bigger bang for the buck? And I think on most episodes there have been a few where I've gotten to the title and I'm like, oh man, this is just something I really say. It's in my brand voice. This may not be a heavily SEO driven episode. And I've learned to be okay with that. But even if there's 10 to 20 keyword searches a month and I can maximize that, I'm perfect, right? And so that blog optimization has been so helpful because it's created basically a performance standard for what we do moving forward. I literally told you, Brittany, I'm taking your template and that has become our team's show notes template. And so I start the keyword research. So if I suck at that, then it goes downstream, right? So
Right.
I start the keyword, and it's not that I just don't want to delegate that. I actually kind of enjoy geeking out on that. And then I'm the only one that's in my brain to think about the keyword research plus the message I want to convey. And so now it's this downstream of impact of, hey guys, here's the keywords we're targeting. Here's the specific title. I follow your format around titling. By no means are we perfect, but there's tremendous amount of growth in the way we create our episodes. And then simple things to teach my team. We should have a minimum of X, H1, H2, H3. We want to look at some of these pieces so that if we're already creating the content, why not make sure that it's SEO friendly? So we're getting the greatest ROI possible. So it was super impactful for us.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I had to make a note because you made a light bulb go off in my mind that we have to use their words, their being our ideal audience, our ideal clients. We have to be using their words. And I do remember that was something that came up with one, if not both of your blogs and your podcast. And it was really amazing to watch you just be like, oh, okay, so I can say it like this. Because not every business owner, not every podcaster, not every YouTuber, not every blogger is very at ease with that. We want our words, we want our jargon, but that's not going to help us grow. And that's not going to help us reach the people that we really need to reach in order to help them. So again, hands up to you.
Well, it's just being a great marketer. And I think this is where I see a lot of my clients get stuck, and business owners in general. They seek the clever wording. And, Marie Forleo always says, a confused mind says, no, you want to choose what they say over clever all the time. And so this is something we're working on in my communities all the time is like, yeah, but if you were sitting at a coffee shop with your person, how would they say it? They wouldn't use fancy words. And so the more we can think about how would they say it as they go to search in Google, the more effective we will be. I think not just from an SEO standpoint, from just a marketing standpoint in general.
Yeah. And again, that gives you the quality of leads that may not be like a massive volume. One day it likely will be, but you're going to get the quality of leads. You're going to feel good about the business you're running, the work you're doing, and the people that you're impacting. So that's everything.
Yeah.
You also mentioned the headlines, the H1s and the titles. And I want to just drop a quick nugget for anyone who's listening. You can actually write one piece of copy and repurpose it in several different places to make your life easier, to make SEO actually work for you. Have you noticed that, like with the podcast titles, the H1s and the SEO title?
I think we have already been doing that.
Oh, good.
But we're constantly moving copy around and repurposing it all over the place. One of the things that we're really trying to study is the SEO on our show notes and things we learned from you and how that translates to YouTube, because we're trying to do a better job of positioning our podcast on YouTube as well. We know we have a very small listenership that relies on YouTube. So then the question is like, you start to see things like YouTube and LinkedIn are really coming up when we search things heavily in the top search responses. And so just even trying to learn and grow and see how it translates to different platforms too.
Yeah, this is a very serendipitous day because today a podcast went live with Jamar Diggs where he and I were talking about how to optimize case studies as blogs on your website. So that was more of my zone of genius and on YouTube. So that was his zone of genius with YouTube SEO. So I will make sure that's linked below. I will also send that link to you.
Yes, please. I'd love to listen.
Because, oh my gosh, we geeked out. And one thing I learned was that YouTube SEO is actually to my brain, website SEO feels a little bit more complex and YouTube SEO feels a little more simpler, streamlined. So I'm sure you're doing amazing over there with your YouTube.
Well, can I throw in something else I learned too, just for your listeners? There's also SEO in your podcast inside of the platforms that you search. This is something I hadn't, but I had a guest on my show who did an audit of my podcast and gave some tremendous feedback. Shout out to Adam Shively. And he runs Podcasting Business School. We made some tweaks and adjustments just to the byline of my title and to the description of my title. That seems kind of arbitrary. You guys, in less than 30 days, like we've changed nothing but those. And already our listenership for this month is up almost 20%. Our downloads.
It's amazing.
So the question is like every month is different. We want to look, but there is SEO everywhere. So you don't want to miss the opportunity.
It's everywhere. I was even noticing recently, or I think I've said this before, but once a month it'll hit me. I'm like, oh yeah, when I go to my Gmail And I know that this person wrote this email about this thing. And so I'll type their name and the keyword I remember and it pops up. Like, we have search engines everywhere.
Yes, totally.
Oh, I love it. Okay, we've talked about the SEO audit. We've talked about the blogs and the actual process of working together. What have you noticed since working together? All the deliverables are over there. You've optimized processes. Like, what are you noticing?
Yeah. I do want to just say processes are everything, just to know that there's intention behind everything. So I think the intangible is just the peace of mind that exists, and to know that the rest of my team knows that we are SEO forward in our methods and that we're all hanging on to that. And then my OBM, before podcast episodes are launched, can go in and she does like a once over just to make sure that all of those pieces are there. Are we starting to rank in things is a great question. And for me, SEO is a long-term game. Obviously I know it is for you. So SEO for me is the overtime. It's, we're here for the marathon and not the sprint. And so we've probably been doing this now, I don't know how many months, several months. So now I'd start to be curious. We haven't really, to be frank, dove into analytics to do much of a review, but I just trust that there's intention there and that this is going to like surface things, at a much greater pace.
Yeah. Have you noticed any difference with clients coming in the door or listeners or anything different in interactions that are happening?
We always have people finding us on the podcast. And I was just having a conversation on another podcast around this, and that this person was feeling discouraged and had let their podcast fall off. And I think this is kind of a struggle with podcasts is it's really hard to measure where everybody's coming from. And then they come in the doors and they'll say something like, oh, I attended your workshop. But what you didn't know is that they'd been a podcast listener for a year before they hopped onto a workshop. And so the client journey, sometimes you have to dig around for. What I will say is in general, like our sales volume is up, our downloads are up, and I can't help but think that, SEO and being intentional is absolutely just a part of greater visibility that exists.
Yeah. And that's a lot of the battle. 90% of it is just being thoughtful and intentional. And that's what I like to remind people about. Like when I had my first business, my massage practice, I didn't know what SEO was. I didn't know what keywords were. I didn't know where they needed to go. I knew what my offer was. I knew who I wanted to get in front of, and I knew the information that I wanted to give them. Here's how you find me. Here's what your first massage is going to look like, all of that kind of stuff. Here's the different modalities. If you know that, that gets you ranking. I was getting tons of calls from people who found me on Google, which is amazing, or emails. I wasn't getting as many calls, but that's so much of the battle.
Yeah, for sure. Totally agree. It's just, I think they're slowing down to be intentional. And it's hard when especially if you're a solopreneur, you don't have a team, you're wearing all of the hats. But my feedback would be just like slow down. If you're already doing the work, then be intentional with the work so that you don't figure out a year, man, I want to go back and fix every single episode, right? I just kind of was like, okay, we're there now, moving forward. Let's be intentional.
Yeah, that's another great point too, is that often comes up when I talk about image optimization. And people will just panic because immediately we think of all of the hundreds, if not thousands of images that we have on our websites, how we haven't titled those properly, how they don't have alt text. And I always am like, time out, you're good. Let that stuff be, let it exist. If you eventually are able to create time where you can go back and optimize things, amazing. Otherwise, you have best practices that you now get to move forward with, and they get to carry you forward and bring in traffic and bring in money and allow you to help people. So thank you for saying that, because I like reminding people about that.
Yeah, totally.
I'm switching gears like slightly because I know you and I love talking about client results and case studies. And that's definitely something that you and I geeked out hard on your podcast. But one question for you is, why do you feel like client results are so important to the growth of a business? Looking for an introvert-friendly way to sell, or even just want to stop feeling so salesy? I've got just the thing for you. Case studies. Yeah, I know. I talk about them all the time, but there's a good reason for it. Case studies are the ultimate marketing resource for introverts and service providers. There's no better way to show someone the exact experience they could have working with you. They get to see themselves reflected in the story they're reading. They start to feel more connected to you and your approach, and they see the results that are possible for them too. There's absolutely no salesy feelings anywhere near case studies. You can get my exact step-by-step process all sorts of resources, checklists, templates, video trainings, live calls with me, and so much more inside my case study training program for solopreneurs. Doors open April 22nd, and we officially kick things off on April 29th. Click the link below for all the details.
I think now more than ever, so I hang out in the coaching space. So everybody I work with is a coach or a mentor or some sort of, we would say, expert. And we're in a day where I just like to call this out. It feels like everybody's a coach. And with that, I found myself sitting on kind of part of the complaining side of that for a while. Like, oh, this sucks. They're watering down the coaching title. And then I was like, man, I just got to be part of the solution, right? And what I think the key to results are, it does set apart those that are legit and have experience and know how to curate results with clients versus those that are just starting out. So if you're somebody that's searching for a coach, the number one thing I would look for is nothing to do with credentialing. The number one thing I would look for is, are they doing the thing that they say that they're doing? And are they showing proof of their results? And I would even say, beyond a flash in the pan Canva template that just says, Amanda's awesome, right? Like, are they talking about people on their podcast? Like, that's why you and I are constantly bringing in episodes like this. Or for me, I do a case study episode once a month on my show because I want that to be the proof of how awesome I am, not me talking about how awesome I am. And the same for you. I want to come on here and say, Brittany's amazing. You should work with her. And that is a testament to your work. And so that's why I think client results are so key. From a profit standpoint, we think sometimes that social media is the driver, but still to this day, you can look up the data to back me up. The number one way all businesses grow and retain clients or have new clients is word of mouth referrals. And so that's not changing. And I don't foresee it changing in the near future because that's like a fast track to trust. And so the way we do that is by serving the people that are in front of us. So they tell more people, you got to go work with that person. And so that's why I could talk about this all day. It's just critical that you care enough as a coach to build results. That's why I'm called the framework building ninja. The reason being is when you have a signature coaching framework as a coach, it gets rid of the messiness and the possibility that you're not getting results with your clients. So if you have a framework and you walk people through it, you are more likely to increase their results and to be able to scale that process. So again, it's really about building trust and being able to stand out and position yourself as an authority over others, maybe doing what you do that don't have all of that social proof.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. As we know, there are two things also that I want to mention. One is that it gives you almost like a vibe check with the person. Do I actually like what they're saying? Do I like them? Do I feel like I could see myself working with them? And secondly, back to the framework ninja, you get to show off your method, you get to show off your process, and you get to explain why you do what you do. And then you even have your client who's there being able to do some of the explaining for you. Like you said, I could talk about this stuff all day long. Do people want to hear it? Maybe on certain days, but having you come in, having other clients come in, they're hearing it in a different way. They're hearing how it actually impacted someone. So yeah, I love this, and we could totally geek out, but we already did. So I'm going to make sure that's linked below.
And I think just to add like an element of just to add on, it also says like, if she can do it or he can do it, I can do it. And that is at the end of the day, the squelch of the objection that all of our clients will have. It's never about money. It's never about time. It's really about, can I get the result? And when they see potential people that are just like them who started where they were, they're like, oh, if Amanda can do this, then I should definitely invest in this with Brittany.
Yeah. I love talking about emotions. Are there emotions that you feel like you had before we worked together, during, and then maybe after?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just like a little bit of overwhelm and confusion. Where do I start? Whereas, for me, I'm always looking at time and money. I'm paying my people. So what's going to be the biggest bang for the buck? And then through the process, honestly, the emotion or feeling of like just trust, I have a strong sense of trust because you and I have chatted, at length behind the scenes and geeked out together on things. So I just felt good around that process. And then at the end, I was just super excited. I was pumped. I was like, I'm ready to take action. And I felt definitely a sense of clarity on where our time was best spent.
Yeah. And it sounds like you guys are just like an efficient machine over there and getting more and more efficient every day.
I mean, we try. Thanks to Monday.com, which is our primary communication tool. It definitely, and having an amazing OBM, like she definitely holds it down for us.
I love all the team members. We are just like so blessed to have them and just so lucky.
Oh my goodness. Yes, totally.
They're incredible humans. Is there anything else that I didn't touch on or anything else that you want to add as we wrap up?
I mean, I just want to toot your horn again for you.
Thank you.
I'm such a fan of, and in my world, we call it the surprise and delight, is we're just in a place where I think there's a lot of entitlement of like, and value. And we've got coaches just pushing charge high prices. And if they're not paying you hundreds of thousands of dollars, then they don't want to show up. And like, my people aren't in that place. I'm working with emerging coaches, coaches nearing that 6-figure mark. And so I think what both of us do, but because I've worked with you directly, is you bring hope back into the service base of like, you just over deliver on what is promised. And that makes, so now I'm always going to be like, oh yeah, when I need SEO support, Brittany's going to be my girl. And I feel like we can have that like ongoing relationship. And so just celebrating you, I don't think there's a lot of providers that have that mindset. And so when I'm one of them and then I go into a relationship with somebody that is like that, it just makes me feel like, okay, there's so much hope. There's people like us out there. And I want my people to feel so supported, no matter if they're investing in a low ticket offer of $300 or they're spending thousands with us. Like we just hold space for them.
You're trying to make me cry. But thank you. I appreciate that. I receive it. And it just hits different when, like you said, you operate like that and then you get to go work with someone who operates like that. It's just like, oh, this is amazing. This is how I make people feel awesome.
Totally.
Well, thank you again. I want to, of course, give links to you. So where can people go? Where can they connect with you? Tell us all the stuff.
Yeah. Well, I love to hang out on Instagram mostly. And my handle there is A Walk My Way. As I mentioned, I'm a framework building ninja. So if you're interested in learning more about how to build a signature framework or to see maybe how your existing framework could be even more awesome, I do host a free training weekly where I walk you through the steps of building a signature framework. And you can jump into that training at amanda-walker.com/framework. And if you have any questions, just happy to engage in a real human being conversation in the DMs.
Those are the best. And she really is a real human being handling her own conversations in the DMs. You are one of my favorite people when your name pops up. I'm like, oh, Amanda's here.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I am still hanging on to that thread of, I don't know if I'll ever move out of the DMs because I do feel like great opportunity there. Yeah.
I know. I'm so happy there.
Yep, totally.
I mean, it makes my day. It just like, it makes it so much brighter and happier. And even if it's someone who's like, oh, I got messed over by this other company and can you help? I'm like, absolutely. So again, back to your hopeful comment, you touched my heart.
Good. I'm so glad.
We'll leave it there. That was really something, wasn't it? Let that really sink in and guide you toward being the answer to even more Googled questions. Thanks so much for joining me this episode. You are the reason this show exists and that it keeps growing. You know, thanks to all those follows and reviews. If you know someone who could benefit from what was shared, send it to them. We don't do shy around here. If you thought of clarifying or follow-up questions while listening, you know what to do. Say hi on Instagram. Check the show notes for all the things that were mentioned, and I'll talk to you soon, friend. What if you had an easy way to bust objections you commonly hear? Well, case studies can be that thing for you. Recently, my case study client, Brittany, shared she had her biggest launch ever, and she largely credits case studies for that launch success. Each time she heard an objection from a potential student, she was able to simply point them to the case study. She let her students do the talking and the objection busting. I mean, what could be easier than that? Maybe hiring me for a done-for-you case study is an option that's just not on the table right now. Cool. You might be interested in my case study training program. It's specifically designed for solopreneurs, service providers who are wearing all the hats and just need to know what to do and exactly how to do it so they have a case study on their site they can be proud of and point people to, just like Brenna did. Doors open April 22nd, and we officially kick things off on April 29th. All the info is below.